Welcome in and welcome back, everybody, to the MLS Live podcast on Sports Prophet TV. I'm Cooper, aka the Sports Prophet. With me, as always, is my co-host and good friend Garrett at Jsomefooty on Twitter. It's finally back. It's finally here. We did our season preview a week ago. Now we're talking match week 1 for Major League Soccer, and we've got how many months ahead of us? This thing's going to run until the end of November, something like that. So we got a lot of soccer.
Solid 9 months.
Solid 9 months, including Leagues Cup.
If you go playoffs and everything. So
absolutely. So we're back, and we've got some bets. We got official bets for the show. If you followed us for the last couple of years, you know how we do it here. So, any thoughts before we get into it?
No, man. I'm just happy to be back. I'm happy it's back. Love some lines already here in match week 1. I always just enjoy the first week or two of the season and kind of those bets in particular, because it's more of what do you know about the teams, right? Like there's not a bunch of stats to lean on like as we get more into the season where we can start to see trajectory of teams and kind of use more numbers and stuff to help with these bets. These are more like a lot of these teams made changes. This window was very active. And so it's more or less, what do you know about these teams, these coaches, these players, these styles, and how are they going to correlate with each other when you don't have the data necessarily to back it up? It's hard to use last year's data for a lot of these teams because some of them have changed so much. So yeah, these are always kind of the most fun bets for me in a sense, where it's like you're really having to put your own knowledge of the league to find value.
Yeah, it's a good point. And, we reiterate that every year. Another thing, that we try to do our best on the show, and, I don't have exact numbers, but it's probably a ridiculous number if you added them all up, all the closing line value that we provide on the show, because we do the show, typically earlier in the week, Wednesday. By the time lines are closing Saturday, usually we've provided quite a bit of closing line value on those numbers. So, because inevitably you're going to lose some bets, and that's where closing line value really comes into play, where it helps you, where you've gotten a minus 110 instead of a minus 145, and then you've saved a ton of your bankroll, right? So that's kind of what that's about. But yeah, it's fun the first couple of weeks, like you said, because we've done all the hard work. We've done all the the taking notes and keeping up with the transfers and the tactics and the coaching changes and the travel and all that stuff, right? So this is where we get to kind of put it into play and kind of feel like we have a leg up on the books for a while, and then as the season goes on, we'll find different ways to find an edge on the book. So, but yeah, I'm stoked, man. Let's jump into it. All right. Match 1 of match week 1. We got Garrett's hometown club here, Nashville SC, hosting one of those teams that had quite a bit of turnover, right? The New England Revs.
Yeah, Revs actually with the most turnover. They have the fewest returning minutes of any team in the league this season. And if you watch the preview show, you got this bet last week. Line hasn't moved much since I mentioned it, but I still like it. So you got Nashville SC. They're going to be going to a more possession-based system, be more progressive, especially in that midfield this season. They entirely revamped that midfield to accommodate BJ Callahan's style. And they're also going to want to press like a lot. But I don't think they have the speed on the back line to recover when you press and if you make any mistakes. New England, they have at least, I guess, like we just said, they have the least returning minutes of any squad this season. But they still have Carlos Hill, former MVP. He's linking up with Chancalay. And they added Campagna to cement the 9 spot. Langoni should look to make a leap this year as he's had a full offseason and preseason. You remember he came over in the summer last season. Didn't look bad. It just, you need that extra time, I think, to really set your feet in MLS. The goalkeeper for New England is still a question mark. I feel about the same as I do with their back line as I do with Nashville's. So it just feels like a good matchup opportunity. This is ultimately a look where I believe the Revolution have the weapons to score, and a system in Nashville could get the best out of former MVP Hani Mukhtar. I really like where he's going to play this season. It's why I made him why he made the short list of my golden boots options to start the season. And so, yeah, I'm going to bank on that here, and I expect to see some goals here. I know it's been cold across most of the country as we look at these CONCACAF Champions Cup matches and stuff. With I think Sporting KC kicked off at 6 degrees. It's some this weekend. We're going to get into the 40s and stuff, at least here. So, looking for some goals.
Yeah, we can rock with 40-degree weather for goals. I'm not too concerned at that point. Once you start to get sub-freezing, then we can talk about pumping the brakes, right? But 40 degrees, nothing, no big deal for goals for in the 40s. Yeah, I actually love the addition of Campagna. I felt like he was a little bit underappreciated at Inter Miami, because obviously Suarez comes in and takes the kind of takes the show, which is understandable because of the big name and everything, right? But I think that's a great addition for New England. I think he'll get obviously world-class service with Heel, and love what Shankale, however you say his last name. I love what he's done of late in his development the last year or so. He's a really good player as well. So I do like the New England attack. BJ Callahan is a bit of a mystery for me as a head coach. I don't necessarily know what to expect. We've had to kind of look at preseason games and read up on the blogs and the interviews and stuff like that to see kind of what he wants to do. But from what I can tell, it seems like he wants to play an open brand, right? So I'm here with you on this one. I think -115, -116. I think that's a really nice price for a game that should be wide open, and should also be a fun one at home to open the year.
This price was a little bit of an outlier. All my lines are from domestic books here in the U.S., but this price was a little bit of an outlier. All the other ones are sitting around 130, 135. This was, I believe, Caesars. Caesars was -116 when you throw these together. So just make sure you're shopping around at all the books that you can.
Cool. All righty, there's our first play of the season. So write it down, folks, and lock them in, because you got to believe me. If you've watched the show before, then you can plug your ears. But if you haven't watched the show before, we will get you closing line value. Lines will move. So lock them in while you can. On to our next one. Here we go. From Garrett's hometown team to my hometown team, Austin FC, hosting Sporting KC, who played the night in that Champions Cup match against Inter Miami. Lost 1-0 thanks to the right foot of Lionel Messi. His off foot scored the game winner. Austin FC, this is a team that I'm buying. And when it comes to me and my teams and clubs and all that stuff, I'm definitely a realist. I typically come off more negative, just because I've experienced the pain, and I choose not to get my hopes up, right? But I am buying some stock in Austin FC this year with the additions that they've made. Obviously, they went and got Brandon Vasquez from Monterrey and Liga MX. They got Uzuni from Granada, who's very, very talented striker. And then they've still got, obviously their big purchase last season was Bukhari, very speedy winger. They've still got Obrian. So you got those two speedsters on the edge. They're kind of trying to figure out who's going to be pulling the strings right now, but a lot of talent, a lot of attacking talent for Austin FC, and they've spent like crazy. Like they're spending almost as much as anybody in the league, right? So I can't complain. I mean, you're spending money. You're trying to make big changes. You can't say, oh, that we didn't spend money. They're spending money. I like it, and I'm buying them. I'm buying the Verde and black. All right, so I'm taking Austin money line. This line, a little bit of an outlier. I think I saw this one on Bet Rivers domestically, and then Bet Online. I still think they had like a -118. So that was a couple hours ago. They should still be available depending on what your options are. I'd play this probably up to -130, -135. I'd probably draw the line there at that point. But I do think this is a very strong spot for Austin. like I said, it's a team I'm buying. Sporting Kansas City, they had the Champions League game already tonight, so they'll be a little bit, you know, that was kind of the priority, right? So I think Austin gets it done. I'm not a big fan of the Sporting Kansas City team, to be honest. I think they'll be, could be one of those teams that might overachieve a little bit, but even if they overachieve, I think they're an average MLS team. So give me Austin at home.
I think Sporting KC are still one of the oldest teams in the league, even after the offseason with some changes. This is a game where I tried to see how I liked Austin's team total over 1.5 and floated it around in a couple of different spots to see how I liked how that looked. Ultimately, I laid off of this game, and I just kind of want to see Austin game one, see what they look like. I do believe that attack is going to be very good, or at least better than uh, the 50% of the attacks in MLS, right? Like it needs to be. They spent that much money. Like it should be better than at least half the league. Again, the 10 is the issue, right? Like you mentioned it. Who's actually going to orchestrate all this is going to be interesting to watch as that unfolds. But yeah, so this is when I'm going to just going to sit back and watch Austin. But this is your club. You're more in tuned with this club than I will ever be. And so yeah, especially after KC playing on 2 days rest and -6, I'm not minus, but 6-degree weather, it just takes long for the body to recover, like from playing in 6-degree weather than just normal. So it might be a good spot to attack Sporting KC here really early, and grab a nice money line. So I don't hate it at all.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been to several games. Obviously, being an Austin fan, the place will be rocking. Season opener, it'll be as exciting of a game as probably they've had in years there because of how bad we were last year. So another underrated signing from Austin was Illy Sanchez from LAFC. I mean, I know he's getting older, but man, we needed a guy like that in the midfield.
His best days are certainly behind him,
For sure.
but he's somebody who can captain the side. He can direct that midfield. Definitely a solid veteran pickup for most teams in the league.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that one just because we needed that kind of guy as far as the culture, right? Obviously we got a new coach with Nico coming in, but all right, on to the next one. Here we go. DC hosting Toronto.
So yeah, we're going to start off with our first under of the season here, going with a full under 3 as it's playable. I got DC United is taking a step. I think they're taking a step back this season. They finished 10th last season, but I think this is even a more rebuild. They got a new GM, and that roster is just the way it's constructed is awful. So yeah, they finished 10th last season. I feel pretty confident saying they will do worse this season. They sent Coup de Petro out. Again, Bunny goes straight from really not playing at all to the Premier League. So we won't get to experience him, which is a real shame. Klitsch is out, but still taking up a DP roster spot, like just to illustrate how bad the roster construction was here. And because they had no really way to move this roster salary around, they brought in really no one that excites me. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a tough year for DC, in my opinion. Another team that did almost nothing this offseason was Toronto. As they're also hamstrung by roster construction stuff. What?
Exactly. I was saying, yeah, how can they?
Yeah. I mean, they're talking about Lorenzo Insigne not making the bench. Like that team is like they have just got a complete fallout. We can talk about Insigne more later, but yeah, that's just that's turned into a real bad situation. They did bring in a new number 9 from Norway. But he was introduced like via Zoom a couple of days ago, so I'm not sure we'll see him this weekend. In fact, I doubt it. So Toronto's going to have to lean on their defense pretty hard this season, in my opinion. I think with Flores, he's the backbone there, that defensive midfield. He is like the core of the spine, so to speak. Now, in preseason, Toronto didn't score any goals, I believe, but I also don't think they conceded any. So I got two teams who I think will struggle this season. Both are lacking clear attacking options outside of their singular DPs, really, in Benteke and Bernadeschi.
Yeah.
So I love that the whole 3 is playable here, and I think it's actually a really good spot to open the season.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, like you said, you're basically relying on one guy on each team to do all the creating and scoring themselves. Currently, the way that they're constructed, I also I think there's some good looks. We talked about kind of the inflation of the totals in MLS in general. We're seeing a lot of 3.5s. I know you and I were chatting about that the other day. There are some teams that are not necessarily going to hit the ground running and just be, pistons rolling, all lubed up. I mean, they're going to be a little bit rusty, right? I targeted one last night, targeted an under last night with LAFC in Colorado that it was ended up being a half loss, but I really, in hindsight, I'd play it 10 out of 10 times because I think LAFC is one of those teams that is going to take a little bit to find the new pieces and gears and stuff. So there's going to be some good underspots, and this is definitely one of them. Probably a little bit colder game too. I don't know, probably going to be 40s, which, whatever. We talked about that earlier, but definitely like the under here. Love the push protection. I always try to buy up to the 3 if it's like minus 140 or better. Just give me the 3 if I'm going to be on an under. All righty. Here we
It's
go.
going to take guys. It's going to take guys 3 or 4 games to start getting up to game speed, right? Like you can work in the preseason, but nobody comes in fully fit. So
Exactly.
to get up to game speed, yeah, that first month you might see some lower totals.
Without a doubt. All right. LAFC hosting Minnesota United, the Loons. One of my favorite teams outside of my actual favorite team. Ever since they came in the league, I just almost adopted them as one of the teams that I followed a little bit closer. I'm fading LAFC here. We just talked about them a little bit with the game, the Champions Cup match against Colorado. I think LAFC is going to take some time to get their kind of figure out what's going on with their attack and with the new pieces that they added in the midfield. They added Igor Jesus. I think he's a good player, but I just think it's going to take some time. And they had some significant departures as well in the attack. So, and Giroud has never really found his stride in the system. Like, let's be honest, it's never looked great with Giroud. I'm not saying that it's impossible that it won't happen, but dude, Bogus going to Cruz Azul, that dude might be the best player on Cruz Azul's team. Like, that guy is awesome. That guy is fantastic, and I think he's still getting better. So big loss losing that guy. So I think they've got some roles to fill. I think they're a little bit rusty, and I like this Minnesota team. Yeboah at striker, they've got some speed. Tanny, the other striker, who has great story. I think he was on like league minimum like a season and a half ago, and he's scored a hatful of goals the last year or two. I like the team. Excuse me. I like the way that they're constructed. I like the young coach, Ramsey, and also LAFC. It's a little bit of a sandwich game dealing with Champions League. So give me the plus 0.75. That's an Asian line. So you'll have half of your risk on the double chance and half of your risk on the +1. But I like it. I mean, I think this game gives me, honestly, it kind of gives me upset vibes a little bit. I'm not even going to say draw vibes. This game actually gives me legitimate Minnesota could win this game upset vibes.
I like Minnesota. They're my dark horse for the West this season as far as making a possible splash. I waited all week to see if the +1 was going to get playable. If I would have hit it at minus 150 or more, or better. And it never got there for me, unfortunately. I'll probably mess around and try to get the +1.5 in a parlay somewhere, maybe like in a 2-legger. But no, I like Minnesota. I won't go as far as to say they win, but I like this Minnesota team. So yeah, I'm completely okay with this look.
Awesome. Glad we're on the same page there. All righty. Great shot of the city there on that stadium photo, by the way. All right. We've got two parlays. They're both going to be yours, and they're both plus money. So had a really good track record of these exact. We called them combo plays last year on the show, and these combo plays absolutely kicked ass. So let's get to the first one.
So, I mean, it's Atlanta United versus Montreal. Atlanta's at home. And just what an offseason they had, right? Like Almiron and Latila, who has his visa already. Like he's with the team. So I fully expect him starting this weekend. I think Atlanta could lead the league in goals scored this season. So I want to jump on that train early. While that over 1.5 team total isn't just like starting getting into the 300s. I don't want any of that. So while it's still playable here, it's like 185 to 170 depending on your book.
Yep.
I'm going to get on that early, especially versus the Montreal side, who was absolutely awful on the road last season. Montreal is taking a chance on quite a few young players to become the bedrock of their team in the next 2 to 3 years between the summer window and this winter window. But I don't think much has changed from last year to now when they go up against some of the best offenses in the league. I like this team total so much. I'm on it twice this week. So there's a little foreshadowing, right? And then we got Galaxy hosting the newly expanded San Diego FC. Galaxy will be without Paintsill and Puig. Will miss most of the season, but they still have Peck. Roos has looked excellent in preseason from all accounts. And they added Christian Ramirez, aka Superman, quickly to band-aid the void left by the loss of Joveljic, right?
Yep.
They're going up against, we talked about it, newly expanded San Diego side, who I think is just going to be really fun in attack. Chucky Lozano and the Danes. But that defense may be the biggest question mark in the league. I couldn't tell you right now, like how they line up, and the options aren't great for what they do have, right? So I love goals here in general, I think, but a simple both teams to score is where I'll land this week as I watch and learn more about San Diego. But yeah, like San Diego, especially on the road, could be like what Colorado was last season. And I'll expand on that more in the next play. But I like goals here. It's I don't see any value in the Galaxy money line, right? Like with some of the pieces they're missing, but I think we'll absolutely get a goal from each side.
Cool. Yeah, I was hopeful, once we started to see the moves come in on the Atlanta side with the transfers, with all the positive moves they made. I was hopeful that they would be this year's version of LA Galaxy as far as the team total being playable, but the books did not let that one slide. That didn't work out how we had hoped, because those of you that remember, LA Galaxy team total over 1.5 was probably the most successful play in this show's history for like 70% of the season last year, and the books just would not adjust. Playable at home, plus money on the road. We were just hitting it, like it owed us money, and it did owe us money, evidently. So, all right, love it. Next one.
And so I've already talked about Atlanta. I'm on the Atlanta team total over 1.5 here again. And I'm going to this time partner it with St. Louis City versus Colorado Rapids over 2.5 full game. So St. Louis is at home against what was a high-flying attack last season from Colorado. And this game just smells like goals. St. Louis have their attack set. Hartle to score or assist is something I'm going to be looking at often this season if there's any value there in any of the games. I kind of pick a player every season that I'm like watching for that score assist metric and that I think could, hold some value. This season, I think it's going to be Hartle for me until the books just make it so that it's unplayable. And I mentioned Colorado in the last play, what I think San Diego could be this season. The Rapids road games averaged 3.8 goals a game last season. 3.8.
Wow.
So just let that sit in. 17 games, I think it was 66 goals combined between scoring for and against. Just wild. Mihailovic will once again be pulling the strings on this team. They did work this offseason to strengthen their back line by bringing in 2 center backs from a crowded Cincinnati defense. I don't think we see that kind of crazy total anymore. Both those guys got to start last night in the CONCACAF Cup match. But even still, it's one of them was the third CB option on Cincinnati. One was on the bench. So these guys are now being thrusted into starting spots to see if they can hack it. Even still, I like the St. Louis system a lot. They know who they are, and it's hard to see the Rapids changing their ways on the road over one off season with how intact and good that attack can be for Colorado as well. So yeah, I'm taking over 2.5. This is one that almost out of the gate started approaching 3.5 pretty quick when it dropped. You can still get 3.25, but it's juiced. So yeah, I'll just take a team total I love, throw it with over 2.5 in a game that I love goals and plus money again. I love it.
Yeah, I like this one too. I love the foundation of both of these being obviously the Atlanta team total. I think that's very solid. At home at the Benz, that place is going to be bouncing, and everybody's ready to go, like you said. So that's an awesome kind of a foundation there for both of these. I like the play. A question, or not so much a question, just kind of a thought that I've had though, looking at preseason odds and futures and stuff like that. This St. Louis City team, is something happening that I'm missing? Because the books have them as like the third or fourth lowest odds. And like basically the books have this as like the fourth worst team in Major League Soccer going into the season, fourth or fifth. I was kind of higher on the St. Louis City team. They're finally healthy. Like they were never healthy the whole year last year. And when they finally did get healthy and they got both of their German guys in and then Klaus was back. And then, when they were healthy, pretty damn good attack. So, and anytime St. Louis City plays at home, I mean, they're live to win against almost anybody. So what am I missing with this team? Are they undervalued, or are the books ahead of us here? Is this going to be a down year for St. Louis City?
I mean, to be fair, they finished 12th in the West last season. Like it wasn't a pretty season after finishing one, I think the year prior.
But they were never healthy.
No, but they also just weren't good. And they brought in two guys that summer, right? So like they haven't had that full German attack like synced up for an off season yet. So I think they're going to be better this season for sure. Excuse me, but I think this is more of the books just seeing where stuff fleshed out last season and just seeing that St. Louis was bad, man. Like it wasn't a good season in any stretch of the imagination, even though we liked this team in that attack. But you can't give up 63 goals and expect to do a lot. That's right. An issue. Like their goal differential is minus 13. It was tough. It was tough sledding, but it led to changes, right? So, however, that front office knows what they want. Like they have a German front office. They brought in German players. Like they know what they want to do with this team. So no, I think the books are wrong by having them as like third or fourth, like longest odds. But like this is not a team that I expect to like finish top 4, top 5. I think they'll be somewhere between 9 and 7, struggling to try to make those playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a playoff team. I'm with you. I don't think they're a top 3 or 4 team in their in the conference, but I do think they're a playoff team, and having them that low, I guess I feel like they're value, but just kind of surprised to see that. Okie dokie. All righty. Well,
I'm gonna look real quick and see if I have lines for St. Louis, like where they finish.
Hey, I didn't mention the beginning of the video, so make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Anytime you like the video, that helps as far as visibility. So we're trying to get the video out to as many people as possible.
Are there any other games that you had an eye on this weekend?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. Good question. I considered an under in Seattle and Charlotte. Still kind of considering it, but it's 2.5. So I wanted like a 2.75, didn't get it. Kind of considering under there. I do think I'll probably back Charlotte and fade Seattle at some point this year. I just don't know about the home opener.
feel like if the Chicago Fire plus 1.5 gets much lower and it becomes like more playable range, I'm gonna have to think about it. Columbus don't have an answer at the 9 right now. And I think this Fire is gonna be more defensively sound. The moves they made were defense. I mean, they brought in the best defensive free agent in Jack Elliott from Philly. So I really like where that's going. Cincinnati was just scored.
There we go.
And so Chicago Fire plus 1.5. I'm going to look at. I might have to like drop that in with something, maybe Minnesota 1.5. Although I don't love taking 2 dog spreads in a parlay. That just seems to be asking for trouble. But a game I'm looking at San Jose draw versus as they host RSL. That draw is speaking to me. It's whispering things. So I'm thinking Bruce Arena's first game with a not great roster. Like he made a ton of changes this offseason, but he just brought in a bunch of New England guys, it feels like, and Chicho. So like I don't love it. So I think the draw there for an RSL team that's definitely going to take a step back this season. That looks interesting. Phillies Orlando game.
I don't like
I
games.
I am worried about Philly this season. This is a team that's realizing, oh crap, our academy is not producing the guys we thought it was going to produce, and we haven't spent any money. They did bring in a striker. I don't know if he makes the cut this weekend. I haven't checked his visa stuff. But even then, like it was only $3 million. That's Philadelphia's like transfer record. And I'm just like, come on, guys. Like some of these teams that just dive so much into the academy is just I don't like it. I don't like how they set up. And they lost pieces. McGlynn's gone, Elliott's gone. This could be a kind of a transition year for Philly. Yeah, we'll see.
I agree. I don't love Orlando.
No, I'm not eating what is
in
minus
general
140 or juice like that. I'm not eating that for a year.
But I'm only looking that way. If I had to bet something, I'm only looking that way. Because with it, you get a little boost at home with it being the home opener usually. But if this game ended 1-1, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Gun to my head, under 3, because the under 3 is very playable. Like that's where I would lean here. I think
that's a sneaky good look, honestly, because I think both of these teams are going to be searching for answers and attack. So that's not a bad look, Garrett.
Oh, where else would we go? I don't love Acosta and Musa with Dallas being a plus 320 dog. I don't love that. Houston's, again, I think they're just going to overperform more than what people expect. Even though I don't think they're a great team, that midfield is going to look different this season. But I don't want a piece of Dallas right now. I need to see if Acosta and Musa can literally carry that team, because that's what it's going to be required. It's going to be 2 DPs carrying the squad.
I got one. This is the last take I have. Portland, Vancouver. Jonathan Rodriguez to score a goal. And that's it. I don't want anything else to do with the game, but that dude is going to score goals. He has to.
I wonder what that is, that price.
It's probably going to be like plus 150.
Where's it? Portland? Let's see if I got lines. Anytime. Looks like I have only, they're not. They didn't give me one for Rodriguez.
Maybe they have it offshore. Let me look real quick.
Because I don't hate that. I mean, especially this first game, it's going to be him. Like he's got to carry it. So.
Exactly. All right, goal props.
Here's what I know. If Mora, so I'm looking at just FanDuel right now. If Philip Mora is plus 135 and Kevin Kelsey is plus 150, Rodriguez is going to be worse than that. He might not even be even money.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I'm definitely not eating juice on a goal scorer. unless it's Benteke last year or Messi.
So, but yeah, so there's a couple extra looks for y'all. So thank you for holding out to the video. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, we appreciate you so much.
Yes, we do, and we will have more to come. Obviously, we're going to do this every week. So happy MLS season. We're glad that it's back. Week 1, best of luck to us. Lock them in now because they will move. And that was, I think that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was six official show bets for week 1. We'll see you guys next week.
Get started on the right foot. Thanks, guys.